Some people believe in the paranormal, and some just do not. The following stories are real accounts from real people. After hearing them, maybe you will become a believer. Mine is secondhand. My stepmom and my dad used to work opposite shifts there for a while. He was on nights and her on days. They had a set of baby monitors from when my sister and I were babies. My dad said that they could record short messages with them, and they would leave them out on a coffee table for the other to hear when they got home from their shift. This went on for a bit. Then once their shifts lined up, they put the monitors away in storage. She died of cancer at a really young age, and my dad had just gotten back from the funeral and was home alone. He spent that night going through their things, packing some of her stuff away. He said that he had one of the baby monitors sitting out on the coffee table, and it woke him up in the middle of the night with an old message going off on repeat that she had just recorded. It said, "I love you, Mike. I love you, Mike," over and over. My dad told me he had just sat on the couch in the dark and listened to her message until the batteries died. A couple of weeks later, he had picked us kids up for the weekend. After my sister and I went inside, he said he was sitting on the porch smoking, and a strong gust of wind blew, and he said he could smell her perfume that she always wore. It scared me hearing those stories as a kid, but now I can see the beauty and peace in those experiences. Okay, not me, but my family. My grandfather was a bad man. Alcoholic, extremely violent, tried to kill my grandmother in front of their kids. One of his less horrible acts was abandoning my grandmother with their 6 kids, all under the age of 12. Some of his kids maintained minimal contact with him. He lived about 30 or 40 miles from my grandmother and the 2 kids who stayed in the area. When he was in his 80s, he was hospitalized, and he passed away in the middle of the night. In the morning, his oldest child, one of my aunts, went to the morgue to identify the body and fill out paperwork. On her way, she stopped by my grandmother's to break the news. When she came in, my grandmother said, "Oh, it's a sad day. He just died past midnight, I imagine." My grandmother had begun to show signs of dementia or just basic old age. So when the weird comments weren't too out of character, and my aunt just assumed that the hospital, one of her siblings, had already called to tell their mother the news. My aunt shook it off and drove to the morgue. When she saw the death certificate, she was shocked to see the time of death listed as 12:10 a.m. On her way home, she stopped back at my grandmother's and asked her who called her and to tell her the news, and asked why she said that she thought he died just past midnight. My grandmother said, "He came to see me at 12:30 and we talked for a spell. He wanted to apologize for all he'd done to me and you kids. I think he made his peace and was able to move on. I'm so glad for that." My grandmother then resumed humming and doing her jigsaw puzzle. My grandmother knew her ex-husband had died and the approximate time of his death because his ghost visited her in the middle of the night. Growing up, my brother and I had a computer program that he used to compose piano music on. I remember I was reading in the living room when I heard the most beautiful violin melody I'd ever heard. I listened to the whole thing, which was several minutes long. I walked down the hallway to compliment my brother on his masterpiece when I realized my brother was not using the computer and I was home alone. I used to be in the military, and the training camp bunk that we lived in was said to be haunted. Occasionally, our stuff would go missing and reappear in weird places, like under the bed or inside a bag that we zipped up and stuff. No big deal, right? I mean, human error and all. Then came the instance that freaked everyone out. It was one night after lights out, and my friend was on his phone texting his girlfriend. Most of us were drifting off to sleep and were lying in our beds, etc. Suddenly, he heard the shuffling of feet from the corridor. So thinking that it was our sergeant, he quickly hid his phone under his pillow, rolled over on his side, and pretended to sleep. Till this day, what happens next chills me to the bone. While he pretended to sleep, he heard someone right behind him, at the other side of his bed, going, Don't worry. You can continue to pretend to sleep. I would dismiss this as a figment of his imagination, except about 5 other people around him heard it as well, including me. Creepier still, there was no one there, and it was the voice of a little girl that said it. For reference, our training camp was in the middle of an island and was set up away from the main admit blocks. The island had been closed by the government for army training purposes for the past 15 years, so there definitely was no civilians around, let alone kids. To make matters freakier, when we came back from our weekend home leave, there was a bunch of female hair on his bed, neatly bundled up, long and jet black. Under his pillow was a note. Remember me? Now, as I said, we were in the middle of a forest in the middle of an island. And at that point in time, there were no female recruits, personnel on the island. Our bunks were locked up for the weekend, and the duty sergeant had no idea that the incident happened. We never spoke about it after that night. Still chills me to the bone thinking about it. Edit. Yes, guys, I am from Singapore. And those of you guys who are from there would know until recently, army camps in Singapore did not allow headphones with cameras, so no pictures. Also, for those of you that say it may be a prank, yes, it is very well may have been, but if it were, it'd be one heck of a prank, and I was really fooled bad. The complexity of that prank would have been crazy, and I applaud anyone that was able to pull that off. That being said, many Singaporean guys will tell you that the camp, Tikong, is a place where a lot of paranormal stuff happens. Most guys that have been through that camp have either experienced something firsthand or know someone that has experienced it firsthand. Lastly, for those of you saying I fabricated the whole thing, my job is not to convince you. I'm just simply relating what the heck happened to me and my army buddies. Believe what you will, but I know what happened to me. Middle of the night sleeping, I hear a sound like someone is taking a paperclip from my desk, throwing it against the wall, and it bounces across the desk. I wake up to this noise, turn on the light right by my bed as I sit up. I look over to see nothing. Weird. As I'm ready to lay back down, my 20-pound steel gumball machine falls from the shelf over my bed directly onto my pillow where my head was not 30 seconds earlier. I flip out and scramble out of my bed as I'm totally taken by surprise. As I stand up, I feel something under my feet, a paperclip. I put the murderous gumball machine on the floor, the paper clip back on my desk, and crawl into the safety of my comforter. Nothing like that happened ever again. Edit. The shelf was a bookcase headboard that was only a foot taller than my bed. It probably would have killed me, just maybe damaged my face, I'm guessing. But I was also 10 years old, so, that lack of forethought for you. Maybe it was someone trying to warn him that the gumball machine was going to fall off the shelf and hit him. Never know. But I hope you guys have enjoyed these paranormal stories. For all things strange and unusual, follow, hit the like button, and I will see you guys soon.